Welcome. Let me present seminar about AWS Well-Architected Framework. Okay, so my name is Reznykov. I'm a cloud architect and CTO Europe at Svitla Systems. And before we start, let me present the company which conduct today's seminar. So Svitla Systems is a global digital solution company with over than 20 years of industry experience. We have a global footprint and we have headquartered in California, but along with that, we have more than 13 global locations. We have offices in Asia, in Europe, in Ukraine, in Latin America, and obviously in US. Also, we have more than 1,000 highly skilled engineers, which already completed a bunch of projects from various industries, and that is why we'd like to share our experience with you and with our customers. We work in different areas and in different industries. Also, Svitla is APN member, and Svitla is a AWS Advanced Tier Service Partner. So this title means that we have designated title in this framework. We have trained and certified technical individuals who have proven customer experience and demonstrate a high level of proficiency and expertise in design and implemented and management solution. We provide different kind of solutions, so we support our customers in cloud migration and cloud adoption, provide managed support services, provide assess and actually implementation phases of migration, could review and improve your cost optimization, hardware, cloud security, and provide some other managed services. Today we will speak about AWS Well-Architected Framework. So we'll speak how it could be applied to your workload. We'll speak about review, about their importance, about how to define risk and opportunities, and how to create improvement plan. In the second part of our seminar, we'll speak about operational excellence pillar. We discuss strategies, how to implement them, and review some AWS and partner tools which could help us in this implementation. Also, this seminar is not a new, so this one is the next in the series of seminars about AWS Well-Architected Framework. And let me quickly recap what we learned and what we discussed on previous seminars. So at first, AWS Well-Architected Framework contains proven design principles and best practices. So we discuss how it's constructed, and we will discuss how it's constructed, why it's like why it's working, not just something like written on the paper. Workload and pillars for review are selected by customer according to business and technical requirements. We also will speak about how to properly define workload and scope of that. And a very important point that outcome of the reviews is an improvement plan that includes detected risk and proposed solutions. We also repeat that, and we'll discuss why it's so important to invite a service consultant partner to implement such created improvement plans into your workloads and applications. Also here you see QR code, which leads to a YouTube channel with recording of previous seminars. So let me start about and speak about what is AWS Well-Architected Framework. Please answer the first question. Are you familiar with AWS Well-Architected Framework? Nice, very interesting result. It's almost half of attenders are familiar with well-architected framework, and half of attenders are not familiar. So I hope I will provide you some interesting new information about well-architected framework, even to those who are already familiar with that. So thank you for answering, and let me go to definition. So by definition, AWS Well-Architected Framework helps cloud architects build secure, high-performant, resilient, and efficient infrastructure for a variety of applications and workloads. Also, I need to do very important notes right now. So at first, AWS Well-Architected approach is actually cloud agnostic. So despite it's named AWS Well-Architected Framework, it could be applied to workloads deployed to any cloud, to hybrid workloads, and even to on-premise deployment. On the other hand, it's obviously that it will be more efficient, and some of best practices and most of design principles are like tied for AWS cloud infrastructure, and because results of this review will be integrated with such services as, for example, AWS Trusted Advisor and some others. Why we are speaking about AWS Well-Architected Framework, why it's interesting, why we need to spend time on that. So let me provide several benefits of that. So in a nutshell, AWS Well-Architected Framework provide consistent set of best practices for customers and partners to build architectures. Obviously, working with AWS Well-Architected Framework, doing review, you will learn and get knowledge about these best practices. Review could be done in different ways, but in any result, your team will become with better knowledge about best practices. So one of the most important things that as a result, you learn AWS best practices, and as a result, your future applications will be built better. Another point, understanding what is going on particular stage of your application, and understanding impact of each particular decision. Does it correspond some best practice, or it could be for example, not fit some best practice. You will be able to understand possible impact, and due to this, make informed decision. Should we stay with this decision, or we need improve or change it? As a result, bad decisions or wrong decisions could lead to additional risks, and understanding understanding the impact of this decision, we also could understand which risk could happen and how we mitigate them. As a result of all this, things, as a result, we will be able to provide our application faster to the market and better for our customers. AWS Framework is not a new tool, so its history was started in 2012, more than 10 years ago. So at first, it was used internally by AWS Solution Architect to analyze customer infrastructures and architectures. Then several years later, it was published, and best practices were split to 4 pillars. But during these years, framework is continuously growing. New pillars are added, new lenses are created. So it continued to grow, and I hope somehow later we will speak about 7 pillars. Who knows? So how a AWS Well-Architected Framework is constructed? At first, it contains design principles and best practices. It has questions which asked about whether particular best practices are in place in the workload or not. And these best practices and design principles are split across 6 pillars. And also one more interesting part of well-architected framework, it's lenses. So in some sense, lenses, it's like a small version of well-architected framework. It could be highly customized, and also provided by AWS. And it's usually provide guidance with a focus on specific industry or technology domain. Currently, there are 6 pillars in well-architected framework. So their names are self-explainable, but let me go through them quickly. First one is operational excellence pillar focused on a running and monitoring system and continuously improvement processes and procedures to deliver business value. The security pillar incorporates the ability to protect data system and assets to take advantage of cloud technologies to improve the security. The reliability pillar encompasses the ability of workload to perform its intended function correctly and consistently when it's expected to. Performance efficiency pillar includes the ability to use computing resources effectively to meet system requirements and to maintain that efficiency as demand changes and technology evolves. Cost optimization pillar comprises the ability to run system to deliver business value at the lowest price point. And actually the younger one, sustainability pillar, covers environment impact, especially energy consumption and efficiency. Here, another very important point that this order from left to right doesn't mean exact importance of the pillars. So for each particular workload, importance pillar actually depends on your technical business requirements and stage of your application. And another point that in any, I'd like to say, in any workload, you should, you face it up with some trade-off between pillars. So, for example, for some startup on initial phase, maybe cost optimization will be more important than, say, reliability or performance efficiency. So you will be concentrated on keeping costs small for this application. For some enterprise level application, I'd like to say that reliability and performance efficiency maybe even more important than cost optimization. And when you need to implement some best practices from different pillars, you need prioritize them between each other. Here we see some lenses designed for AWS Well-Architected Framework. So as I said, they provide guidance for specific industry or technology domain. Beside them, we may mention several names, names of these lenses, like serverless application lenses, software as a service application lenses, Internet of Things lenses, and so on. Also, it's possible to create custom lenses. So, for example, if you have stable development processes in your organization or have some stable principles, you may create questions which cover best practices which should be in place in any application in your organization. So you may create these custom questions, include custom best practices, obviously, and include some risk, which also design in in a very simple way, that if that and that best practices are not in place, probably it would be such impact. Also, usually in custom lenses and the lenses provided by AWS, questions are also split through these 6 pillars or maybe less number of pillars, but you may use your own pillars if, once again, if it better fit your technical and business requirements. Here, let me show you a screenshot from Well-Architected tool, which we consider in the scope of review. You see, so that question is taken from software as a service lenses and correspond to operate best practice area in operational excellence pillar, and it includes several best practices like include tenant context into application logs, use purpose build tenant aware tool to enable proactive management of tenant workload and collect detailed tenant insight. I forget to ask that this question asks how are you able to effectively monitor and manage the operational health of multi-tenant environment? And the key things here that you see, it's asked about multi-tenant environment. So probably if you if your application designed as software as a service application, but you didn't keep in mind that, well, a key thing of a SaaS application that it should be multi-tenant, and you need to understand how operational excellence, how logs are collected for each particular tenant. So, and we see that these best practices are tied exactly to SaaS application. And also, if you go through, if you scan this QR code and go, it leads you to documentation where like this concept are described in much more detailed way. It provides some patterns, some anti-patterns, some advices how it could be implemented. So currently there are like a great documentation from AWS about all these things. So if you like develop a SaaS application, I highly recommend you to take a look at this documentation. Next, we mentioned that AWS Well-Architected Framework contains design principles. If you take a quick look on them, probably you may notice that it highly like tied to cloud computing benefits. So by definition, cloud computing is the on-demand availability of computer system resources, especially data storage and computing power, without direct active management by user. And this principle like was put to basement of all cloud providers. And you see, so these design principles like encourage you to use intensively these benefits. So, for example, stop guessing your capacity needs. Have an ability to use on-demand services and like take and create on-demand resources where you need them and how many need them. You like don't need to make a guess at the beginning of your application life cycle. Well, how many resources it will be required. You may take exactly as you need at that moment, do whatever you need, deploy application, then it will be like growing. You may get more resources and try to be like in a good fit and you and has exactly those number of resources that you need. In the same way, having access to these cloud services, you may automate everything which is possible, which obviously reduce number of human errors. Using these services and the cloud computing benefits, you will be able to like gives you architecture evolve, because if you need or like if you have some ideas, you may get service, try this idea. If it works, okay, we'll continue. If it doesn't work, you might just decommit your resources and you will be a good. So you may be able to, you're able to experiment and so on. Okay, next, what we'd like to discuss, it's about workload. So by definition, workload identifies a set of components that deliver business value. So actually, it could be a process, a technology, and infrastructure, a team, or combination of them all. And it's usually like level of details that business and technology leaders communicate about. Also, just let me repeat that it could be, so workload could be selected in cloud agnostic way. As like several examples, of several examples of possible workloads, we may mention e-commerce platform where in workload will include technology and infrastructure. So like as a platform, we understand online store for retail businesses, which include web service, databases, some storages, and so on. For such workload, it would be interesting to assess performance efficiency, reliability, say security, cost optimization. And as an example, for example, we may take a look at DevOps CI/CD pipelines. And in that case, workload should include process, team, and technology. And so review would examine operational efficiency, security, and say reliability in these automated environments. Also, despite we speak about architecture, it doesn't mean that this well-architected review and well-architected approach should be applied only for like serverless applications or another kind of application. No, actually, architecture of application doesn't matter really. So application could be like monolithic application, SaaS service-oriented application, whatever you like have in your development process, but probably best practices will examine does your workload, does your application meet actually these best practices, and that is more important. like one more example of customization of lenses, let me provide example from container built lenses that it has its own design principle. Once again, you see QR code, which you may scan and go to definition. And if you're familiar with a containerized application and take a look at these design principles, well, probably you say, oh, most of them are quite clear and understandable. So you may need to like decrease number of dependency. You don't need, you should not actually store data in your containers. So in this case, you probably better use some external data storages. So you need to like provide versioning of your containers, use the same images through all environment, and so on. So it's like so it means that these design principles are not like something ephemeral. So they're workable. They could be applied to real application. And well, if you will follow this design principle and best practices, which we'll consider later, it means that your application will be a good health and in a better form that it could be without following these principles. And the same way, this is a question from container build lenses. It correspond to prepare best practice area, and it includes several best practices. So questions it sounds like how do you manage life cycle of your containers images? And you see, so these best practices are also well like clear. So you need to understand the lineage of your container image. You need to build the image once and use the same build the image through all environments. You need to use CI/CD processes, implement multi-stage builds, and like several others. Okay, review. So next very important part of well-architected framework is review. So by definition, review is a structured assessment of workload against AWS best practices to identify risks and improvement opportunities across the 6 pillars of well-architected framework. And could you answer the next question? How often are you involved in well-architected reviews? Mm. Okay, thank you for answering. Actually, results are almost third of attenders have monthly, has review on monthly base. Third of attenders has review two, 3 times per year, and unfortunately, the third part doesn't has review. So in this case, if you need help how to conduct your first review and like set up this, incorporate this review process to your development processes, you may contact Svitla System, and we will be happy to help you to do that. Okay, so probably I see that 2/3 of attenders know what is review. So let me repeat. We have 3 phases on review. So first, we need to define workload, where we need to define scope of review, and what is we discussed previously. We need in this scope we need either include say technology, processes, people, teams. So we need to understand what we'd like to consider. It helps keep us focused on like real goal of our review. So next we need to define subject matter expert for each pillar. It could be technical representative, it could be business representative, but in general, team should include like representative from like both departments. Because we need to examine how application like at the end meet our business and technical requirements. So next, this subject matter expert probably will be responsible for improvement implementation at the third phase. So that is why it's important to find them, and they will be able to answer any questions about their pillars. Second phase, also on first phase, we usually collect information, get some architectural diagrams, probably ask access to code if technology part is included to workload. Second phase, it's like review, actually the actual review. It means that it could be done on 1 day base, or it could be several reviews. It depends on team, on processes, because it's not a good idea to put a lot of people in the same room for one day if they will be just work 1-2 hours during this session. And as a result, and the third phase is improvement phase. On this phase, we prioritize found high risk issue and medium risk issue, discuss with customer, tune this improvement plan, and as a result, we provide improvement plan with some recommendation on its implementation to customer. And actually, review on that is completed. But next phase, if customer doesn't have enough resources to implement those improvements, we may provide DevOps engineers, or any other kind of engineers who will help to implement these improvements. Intent of review, it's working together. So as I said, the goal is to make our application, your workload and your application better, and help with that. That is why during review, we try to find these critical issues and then analyze, maybe mitigate them or not. Another great point that it should be blame-free approach. So once again, it's not like idea to find something not implemented and say, okay, your workload is bad because you didn't do that. No, idea is find, fix that, and made your application better. And as a result, you probably agree with me that this is not one-time check. It should be done on permanent base to continuously control your result of your improvements. Improvement phase and improvement phase. Okay, no, sorry. Also, well-architected review contains several parts. So we already mentioned well-architected tool, which allows to go through questions and collect answers of workload. Then we conduct review and define high risk issue, medium risk issue, and low risk issue. And based on that, working together with customer, we create an improvement plan. What actually is a high-risk issue? Idea that high-risk issue is something identified by AWS Well-Architected tool, which could have significant negative impact on business. So it should be either architectural or operational choices, based on opinion from by AWS architects. Medium risk issues, it's actually the same, but it might negatively impact business to a lesser extent. But it's important that it's actually based on general understanding. And on the last phase of our review, we need to discuss with customer all found issues and understand, is this particular found risk has high priority, or in general it could be, so its impact is not so critical for us, and that is why we go through prioritization process and prioritize them, and understand which impact of a particular risk could be, how they could be mitigated or removed or ignored for some time, who will be own this change implementation, and as a result, we get this improvement plan which we provide to customer. And as a result, it leads us to well-architected improvement workflow, where we start with the defined risk, then we go to process of review, and we try to understand our risk and collect improvement opportunities. Based on that, we determine prescriptive solutions, prioritize improvements, implement them, and voila, we need to go once again through all this process. And for example, AWS Well-Architected tool allows to has sequential checks, which allows us to see whether we met some best practices. So whether we already fixed some found risk on previous reviews. So that is why it's great that that some of you has already those review on continuous base as continuous process. And learning, which we could point at first, this review is better to do on early stages because it allows to avoid some risk on production phase. It's because of blame-free approach, so it's possible that we just didn't mention some decisions, didn't consider some decision, and actually probably we all know that any workload could be improved, so it's okay. So it's a normal situation when you find something which should be updated. Another problem where we find time and resources to fix it. And review could be incorporated in different processes. And just let me quickly mention several use cases. If you've done this, internally, your team will learn best practices in the cloud, and as a result, works better. It could be incorporated in a big company where different teams do their part of application or some design or develop some their microservices. In this case, having review on board make you sure that developers follow the same best practices. And also, review is a great tool to support migration. It could be incorporated in several stages and helps to monitor that migration is working in a good direction. Okay, so in this part of seminar, let's speak about operational excellence pillar. And by definition, operational excellence pillar encompasses the ability to support development and run workload effectively, gain insight into their operation, and continuously improve supporting processes and procedures to deliver business value. The main goal of operational excellence to get new features and bug fixes into customers' hands quickly. And that is why operational excellence pillar contains best practices for organizing team, designed workloads, operating at a scale, and evolving it over time. Where we discussed 6 pillars of a well-architected review, I mentioned that it should be some trade-offs. So let me present several examples how operational excellence could be considered or should be considered with some trade-off with others. So for example, operational excellence pillar advises us to run comprehensive monitoring and alerting services. Probably you all know that it leads to great visibility into the system, but on the other hand, it could significantly increase cloud cost. As a trade-off, we should implement cost-aware principles and which helps us to reduce cost while maintaining visibility. Another example, implemented automated incident response workflows improve operational excellence, but it requires to provide grant some permission to these monitoring tools, which could lead to increase in attack surface. Once again, trade-off here is provide strict IAM permissions and control them, how they are used by these monitoring tools. And the last one more example, implementation of another design principle is the frequent deployment of small updates. So obviously it enhances agility of and operational efficiency, but it can introduce instability if not being properly tested and deployed. In this case, we need to care of implemented appropriate deployment strategies and automated rollbacks to ensure that like our application be stable if like something goes wrong. Operational excellence pillar also has several design principles, and let me provide you some maybe historical points. So this is a design principle as it was, say, 2 years ago, maybe less. And there are 5 principles, and so let us go quickly to them. First of them is perform operation as a code. So we in the cloud, working in the cloud, using cloud services, we may apply the same design engineering principles as we work with application code. So we may use the same principles for configuration, infrastructure, say policy, documentation. So everything like could be you process it as a code and by the code. So it allows us to automate, to run this, script for operational processes by response on some event. Obviously, it leads to a lesser number of human errors and provide consistent responses to any event. Make frequent small reversible changes. Once again, we need to design our components that they could be they allows to deploy with small changes. It allowed to like provide to our customers new features quickly, but on the other hand, these small increments could be like either reverse if it fails. So it helps us to keep application in stable form and not affect our customers. Refine operational processes frequently. Its idea that its principles says that we need to analyze what's going on and each time look for opportunities to improve our procedures. Also, we understand that any application is evolving over time, and procedures for this like application also should be like evolving appropriately. So there are some principles there are some implementation of this principle. It's like set up some regular game days or a review session for your procedures to make sure that procedures are effective and like team are familiar with them. Anticipate failure. Any component could fail, so we need to prepare our application, design them in that way that if some component fail, application should be stable. And the last principle is that we need to learn from all operational failures. It means that after like any incident events, we need to analyze why it happened, how it could be like avoid in future, and update our procedures, teach team how to do with that. It allows us to implement this operational excellence. But if we take a look at modern design principles, like latest version, so we see that it became like it's already eight design principle, but almost 4 of them is the same. But we see at first we see a design principle about organizing teams. So now it's like a separate design principle because it's very important. We need to set up good team organization, and we need make sure that team focuses on measurable business goals and align operation with actual strategic objective. And the team understand how they collaborate with other teams, how they share result and share knowledge. Observability. I suppose everyone knows that observability is like a key thing for application success. But now it's like a separate design principles. We need to implement observability to use logs, metrics, and traces to understand system behavior and detect issues. The rest, safely automate where possible. It's actually another form of to perform operation as a code. Other next 4 principles are the same from previous version, but if you take a look, learn from all operational events and metrics, reformulated in more wider way. So it's not just about failures. Actually, it's a best practice to implement this review on permanent base and consider not just failures, but all events and ask each time, should we improve our processes, even if like system doesn't fail. And one more new principle, use management services. I'd like to say that it makes sense from my personal experience. Indeed, in most cases, managed services, it's well, I'd like to say that it's not just about managed services, it's more about using SaaS services or cloud native, where it's not like which provided not in PaaS or IaaS deployment model, but rather in SaaS deployment model, where you not care about infrastructure like servers or even containers behind that. So you just pay for what you use and get what you need. It allows your team focused on like principle and result of your application, not just like playing with managing infrastructure. Let me go quickly through a design principle and discuss which tools could be used for to implement this design principle. So organize team around business outcomes. So to implement this principle, company need to structure team to focus on business goals, not just on technology. Leaders should support clear vision, align operation with strategy, and use the right processes and tools to boost efficiency, agility, and innovation while ensuring everyone understands and work towards shared objective. From AWS side, we may mention several services as our AWS organization, AWS Control Tower, EAM Identity Center, which helps us to set up work and to set up and manage multi-account environments, which is like another best practice for deploying systems. Two other services which we mentioned, it workspaces and workdocs. There are services which support remote work environment and shared documents. From external tools, we may mention several big names. I suppose everyone knows Atlassian Family, Jira, Confluence, Compass, others. We may mention Monday.com, ServiceNow, ATCM, Subsystem, and so on. And let me ask you to answer next question. What observability tools are you using and are you satisfied with its implementation? So it should be two questions in one poll. Okay, thank you. So I see that, according to tools, answer like a spread almost in equal numbers. Okay. Second question. Currently, we have a third attenders who said they are not satisfied, but 2/3 are okay with this tool. So it's a great result. Well, let me repeat, if you are not satisfied, we may assess your observability landscape and maybe try to improve that. Okay, observability. I'm sure everyone knows that it should be, so it allows us to monitor our system to understand its performance, health, and actual cost. We need to set up some key metrics, collect logs, analyze them, and make sure that our system is working according to business goals. From AWS services, which we saw in this pool, we may mention like CloudWatch, X-Ray, maybe it's the most famous service, observability and monitoring services. We may mention like Managed Grafana. It's refer us to use managed services because Amazon AWS provides several services which are actually cloud wrapper of open source tools. And from external tools, we may mention several big names like Datadog, New Relic, Dynatrace, and others. So this list are not complete, obviously. Next design principle is safely automate where possible, and from AWS services, we may mention Lambda to like serverless computing service, a step function which could orchestrate in complex workloads. We may mention event bridge, which is like in most cases just a heart of event-driven system. We may mention also code pipeline, which helps us automate software delivery workflows. From external tools to make automation, we may mention Terraform, another very well-known infrastructure as a code tool. We may mention Ansible, Puppet, Chef, some configuration management tools. And once again, this list are not complete. There are many others which could be used to automate our systems. Next principle, make frequent small reversible changes. So in the DevOps world, we may say that it's quite tight related to implemented CI/CD principles. We need to design our pipelines to deploy these small frequent updates to our system. We need to implement them in that way that it will be able to roll back if deployment doesn't fit some requirements. So it allows to keep our system reliable and allow actually quick improvements and deploy our new features to customers faster. From AWS side, I may mention several code family, code pipeline, code build, code deploy. From external tools, GitHub Action, GitLab, Circle CI, and actually some others. So could you quickly answer next question, which CI/CD tools are you using? And once again, are you satisfied with their implementation? Okay. Thank you. I see a lot of fans of Jenkins. I actually agree with you. I see a lot of fans of GitHub Actions. So it's nice to see these answers. Okay, next principle is refine operation procedures frequently. So as we evolve our workloads and as I mentioned, we need to evolve our operation. It means that we need continuously improve how we manage system by reviewing and updating procedures. So it should be done on a regular basis. Also, we need to share updates, train teams, and try to implement this and actually enforce these best practices through all systems. From AWS side, we may mention AWS Well-Architected tool. We may mention AWS AWS Health Dashboard, which provide view on AWS service issues and recommendations. We may mention very efficient, useful tool AWS Config, which monitor AWS resources configuration and compliance. From external tools, you see that they are from solve different purposes. So, for example, PagerDuty, it's incident response automation. Atlassian Confluence could be used for document and update operational processes, and so on. Next principle, it's about anticipate failure. So it's about how we prepare our system for potential failures, how we may test their weakness to find this weakness, how then we may improve procedures and understand these potential bottlenecks and where potential issues could be. So from AWS, you see services from different categories. So for example, AWS Fault Injection Simulator, it's a test failure scenario service. But in order to be able to answer or like cover some failed components, we need scaling. AWS has several services, after scaling, upscaling, EC2 scaling. We need to use elastic load balancing, which also will come in different forms. We may use AWS backup in order to create backup for our data, critical data, which greatly help us in for disaster recovery scenarios and so on. From external tools, I actually include in this list just tools which helps like implement house engineering approach. So you see Gremlin, you see Azure House Studio, you see Netflix House Monkey. Next principle is learn from all operational events and metrics. And from AWS services, I may mention CloudTrail, which collects all AWS API calls, and it's a great source from debugging what's going on, why like something happened, and who is responsible for that, and which service do what. Also, QuickSight, it's a business intelligent, a great visualization tool with a lot of features, even like including a natural language processing. Security Hub and Compute Optimizer collect a recommendation for respectively for security and computation. From external tools, I may mention Splunk, I may mention Splunk or Sumo Logic or Mogoost, who provide incident detection and learning tool. And the last design principle where we advisable to use managed services. As I mentioned, using these services help us to reduce maintain tasks and reduce actually DevOps engineers' time for managing infrastructure, and we may focus more on designing our application more efficiently. Well, in this these two lists should be much more longer. From AWS services, I may mention DynamoDB, I may mention Glue, like serverless ETL process, ETL service. I may mention S3 object store, scalable object store, which actually one of the first AWS services. I may mention CloudFront, which securely deliver content. CDN service. And from external tools, I just include several of them: MongoDB, Atlas, Cloud Proposition, Snowflake, Cloudflare. There are managed services provided by vendors, and I'd like to say that most of like big vendors provide their tools in cloud form, so you may just get and use them without managing infrastructure, without hosting on your own premises, and so on. This also, I'd like to say I need to mention that despite design principle of operational excellence pillar contains best practices. Unfortunately, our time is running off, and so just let me go quickly through best practice area. Deck will be provided in the follow-up mail. So if you are interested, you may go through documentation by QR code, which we provide at our slides. So operational excellence has 4 best practices area. So organization, prepare, operate, and evolve. So organization, it's where we need to understand our organization priorities, organizational structure, and how companies support team members so they can support business outcome. It has 3 like sub-area: organizational best priorities, operational model, and operational culture. Also, I provide a screenshot from Well-Architected tool where we demonstrate, like, for example, first question: how do you determine what your priorities are? And you see best practices which are included in this question, and it's about how we evaluate internal and external customer needs, how we evaluate requirements of our application, and several others. Next best practice area is to prepare. So it's prepare. So to prepare for operational excellence, we have to understand nature of workloads and their expected behavior. Then we may design workloads to provide insights to their status and build operation to support them. It has several best practices, and this is a question from a well-architected framework, which asks how do we reduce defects, ease remediation, and improve flow into production. Once again, as I mentioned several times, you see QR code, and you might go to read documentation and read documentation about this particular question. Third best practice area is to operate. So to operate workload effectively, we should understand that success is the achievement of business outcome as measured by metrics which we define. By understanding the health of workload and operation, we can identify when organizational business outcome may become at risk, or actually respond appropriately. And last best practice area is evolve. So evolution is a continuous cycle of improvement over time. So we may implement frequent small incremental changes based on the lessons learned from operational activities and evaluate if they improve the system. So we need to regularly review past issues to find lessons and share it across the teams. We need to find insight and prevent similar problems and improve our operations. Okay, we have 2 minutes, so conclusions. Okay, we discussed, covered several topics concerning well-architected framework. We consider how we may design well-architected approach, how it could help us to find issues and significantly improve our workloads. So we discussed how to define specialists who should be involved in well-architected reviews. We discussed how to found and mitigate risks. Also today, we focused on operational excellence pillar. We review its design principles and best practice area and review some services from AWS and independent software vendors, which could help us achieve operational excellence of our workloads and applications. There are several useful resources. There are links on AWS documentation to actually well-architected framework by itself, on labs, on solution library, which contains a lot of examples of good, proven architecture patterns. Also, there are linked on our seminars, on previous seminars and seminars on cost optimization. As next steps, if you are interested in providing a well-architected review and they need to help to integrate them to your processes, you may contact us. We will be happy to help you. Also, I will be grateful for you if you fill this feedback form. It helps us a lot. And if you'd like to learn more, if you are interested in particular pillar, please also mention that in feedback form, and we will try to conduct seminar on those topics. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for staying with us during this seminar. I'm grateful to you. I hope you heard something new, and have a good day, a good evening, depends on where you are.